Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the Magic Jack. This is what I tend to recommend to my clients when I learn that they do not have phone service, but they do have internet service. That is very important that they do have their own internet service as well, because you can't plug the Magic Jack into Wi-Fi. It has to be plugged in with an Ethernet cord. So for your clients with their own internet services and their own internet equipment, they're in their home, Magic Jack can be a great solution for those that don't have that phone service as well. As a rule, it is a lot more affordable than a traditional phone service through a phone service provider. I believe right now it's $40 a year. This particular one was $50 for the device, and then it came with a year of free service. I think all of them are a little bit different. I don't know why, but that's not my problem. The problem is the client needs phone service. This is my recommendation, and I do try to stay fairly neutral on that, by the way. I don't ever tell my clients that people love their Magic Jacks, because that's not necessarily the case. Kind of want to stay neutral on any of those things. But as Stephanie, I recommend Magic Jack because it can be a fairly more cost-effective solution for you. So I've got here a Magic Jack Go. I believe this is the newest, most up-to-date Magic Jack that they have out there, although they're really about the same as far as we're concerned. This one, from what I can tell, the big difference is that it has a companion app that makes their smartphone ring and their home phone ring at the same time, which is pretty cool. But really, we're worried that it is a Magic Jack. While we're working with this in the video today, the Magic Jack Go is going to function in much the same way and be set up in the same way as a traditional Magic Jack. I believe there's a Magic Jack Plus out there. Then there's some other brands. You might see there is Uma that I see fairly often, and then also Obi-Hi is another one that I've heard of. I'm sure there are other brands that I'm not naming here, but I think it's important for you to know that the phone services that function by plugging it into your router to get a dial tone, these are all going to work in the same way operationally and as far as setup goes. I did register this myself. Typically, when I learn that clients do not have phone service, they're going to get Magic Jack, I ask them to make sure that it's registered and set up before I get there. Whether or not that happens, who knows? But it's worth a shot to ask. If you do come across a situation where your client did get the Magic Jack, hasn't yet registered it, it can be done fairly quickly, and it can be done using a cell phone, a smartphone. It does not require a computer, so that might make it a little bit easier. I had no problem on my smartphone registering this. Do know it does ask for financial information or credit card information once you create an account, and I assume that's so they can charge you next year for it. So just don't want you to be surprised by any of that. Hopefully, though, your client has registered their Magic Jack beforehand. Maybe they've been using it forever. That would be best. So this Magic Jack is pretty cool. So this particular model has an option to use USB as the power, or you can plug it into this adapter and plug it into a regular outlet. So it's just kind of versatile in that way. And then in the back of the Magic Jack, you can see there's a phone RJ11 connector here. And then also an Ethernet cord, RJ45 port here. So the RJ45 is actually the input for this device. I now have this plugged into my router. I have this cord plugged in from here over to the back of my router, plugged into one of the Ethernet ports on my router. Then the phone cord is the output for the Magic Jack. Of course, we're trying to get phone service here. And I've got that plugged in from the Magic Jack into the back of the CapTel into the phone spot. And yes, setup really is that simple. Okay, so now we're going to throw a wrench in that. Let's make it a little bit more complicated. So I've seen several cases where somebody will get on GroupMe and they'll say, oh, the client uses Magic Jack. They don't want to put the phone near their router, so we're done. There's nothing we can do. And that is not true. We can put that Magic Jack anywhere as long as PLNAs are an option. So as long as the room we want to put the CapTel in is on the same circuit, the electrical circuit, as the room that the router's in, we can make this happen. So I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so we are going to use PLNAs. I'm going to go ahead and plug the one up by the router now. It is a little bit hard to show what I'm doing and do it at the same time. So I'm just going to show you here in just a second how it is plugged in upstairs, and then we'll go downstairs and plug in our equipment there. I do have the PLNA plugged in there. You see I've got the white cord. We're going to trace that back, and it is plugged in right here to the router. So from the router to the PLNA right there, and then we'll go downstairs. Okay, so here we are downstairs where the client wants his CapTel phone. I have here on the table a smorgasbord of different things, cables, connectors, devices that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to flip to that real quick, show you everything that we have here, and then I'll show you how to connect it. Okay, so this totally looks overwhelming. We're going to use a lot of things to make this happen. Totally worth it to make sure that the client has the phone where they're going to use it most. So, of course, I have a CapTel phone here with our favorite screen, network error. And then I have a power strip. We have so many things to plug in here. We're going to need this power strip. I have the other PLNA, so we had the one plugged in upstairs, and then we're going to need one downstairs as well. I've got a couple Ethernet cords. Chose a black one and a white one just so you could see the difference. I've got a switch, which is one of the things plugged into my power strip there. And then I've got the Magic Jack. Also has its own Ethernet cable here. So I'm going to flip it back around and show you step by step how to get all of these things connected so we have a functioning CapTel phone. Okay, I'm going to scoot it all the way back here, give you a terrible view of me, but a great view of what we're doing. So that'll be good. Okay, so excuse my head being cut off, but I think it's more important that you see the equipment that we're using rather than my face, so we'll go with that. So again, with my smorgasbord, you got to see it up close, but here it all is again. I am close to an outlet here, which we're going to be using to plug in the PLNA, so we're going to start with that. So we do have the first PLNA plugged in upstairs. We're going to make sure the other one is plugged in downstairs by where we want the phone. Of course, this PLNA, like any other PLNA, cannot be plugged into a power strip or a GFCI outlet, so we'll make sure it goes directly into the outlet here. So, first things first, I'm going to connect the Ethernet cord. We're going to use the white cord for this one. Whoops. Connect the PLNA to the white Ethernet cord, and then I'm going to plug this in directly into the outlet here. Okay? So next, the other end of that Ethernet cord, we're going to plug into as the input on the switch. I always make sure the input is the 5 slot. It is the one that is a little bit separated from the others. So from the PLNA to the input on the switch. Now do make sure that your switch does have power, plugging that into the power strip here. Okay, so next, now that the PLNA is providing the output for this switch, we're able to plug in 4 different devices, up to 4 different devices here into this switch. So we have to plug in Magic Jack, and we also need to plug in the CapTel. So that's just what we do. So we're going to start with the Magic Jack here. I'm going to plug that into my power strip so that it has power. And then I'll plug the other end into the switch so that it has an internet connection. Okay, now we also need to make sure that the phone cord, the RJ11 cord here, is plugged in to the Magic Jack. Okay, so from the CapTel to the Magic Jack. All right, and then finally, to provide an internet connection to the CapTel, we'll plug in one side of this last Ethernet cord into the switch. And the other end into the back of the cap tail. Okay, so now that we've got everything set up and plugged in the way we need it, we'll go ahead and reboot the phone. And I don't know if you can see it there, but it'll come up with our connections and just let us know how it's looking. Phone line okay, Ethernet cable okay, DHCP and DNS okay and okay, checking for updates. Okay, and now we're to the time. This is usually a pretty good indicator for me if the phone is connected to internet properly, because if the time is correct, or at least the date is correct, I know that it's connected properly. I'm in Eastern time zone, so it's always an hour off or an hour slow. I love to tell my clients that the reason why is because the phone was made in Wisconsin. They always get a kick out of that. So I'll change that. Okay, and now it's just asking us to get the phone registered. So, as a recap, we've got a lot of cords, a lot of equipment down here, but it is very worth it to be able to put the phone where the client wants it versus where it's convenient. So, there's your setup. A few more helpful hints and things to remember are, if the client has purchased the Magic Jack specifically for the CapTel, it is unfortunately likely that you'll have to register it and activate it for the client. Another thing to remember is that if the Magic Jack pre-exists in the home, there is likely other phones or perhaps a cordless base phone that is plugged into that Magic Jack. Keep in mind that that Magic Jack is the only active phone jack in the home. So where we end up placing it for the CapTel will also have to be where the cordless base or any other phone that they have will have to be plugged in. It's also important to note that these devices are not meant to be backfed. By backfeeding, I mean plugging the device into a wall jack in an effort to activate all of the other jacks in the home. While this does work with something like a telephony modem, it does not work with a Magic Jack or other devices like it. Okay, so that just about wraps up our Magic Jack video. I do have something I want to show you, a helpful hint to demonstrate visually while we're here. So here's our Magic Jack. And a lot of clients have other home phones or maybe a wireless or cordless phones that have a base that would need to be plugged into here. And as you can see, a regular duplex jack would just not fit there with the Ethernet cable here. So some of the things that we have on the lit site will help us to be able to plug in both the CapTel and that cordless base. So I like to use the double female duplex jack. So duplex jack, female sides on both sides. And then you can use one of these cute little short cords. I think you can actually get them even shorter than this. I think we have 1 foot cords as well on the lit site. And you can then plug this right into the Magic Jack and then have your duplex jack a little bit further out where there is a little bit more room for you. Plug in your CapTel, and then of course you could plug in your cordless base, your other phone, what have you. So that's just a little fun fact I wanted to show you. Always good to see what we have available out there equipment wise. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this alleviates some of your stress when it comes to Magic Jacks, and good luck out there. Thanks for watching.